Archons. Wow, there's so much to talk about here today. So I printed out the chart a little bit later than usual because I wanted to get this whole wave image in for the video. Let's go over the key chart changes, and then I'm going to talk about the energy because there is so much stuff that's going on in this chart that's so interesting. Here, but before we continue, can I ask you to please share this video with friends, in posts, forums, whatever. If you could do that, if you like the video, this really helps me get my work out there. And also, if you could like, subscribe, and then hit the notification bell, because that will help you see my work. And it's how most people see my videos, and it also helps me with the algorithm. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Okay, so let's dig in here. The key chart changes, I'm going to just quickly do the last 2 days here, but there's this hammer image here in the chart. Okay, so it's like there's the middle, there's the other side, and a post. And then you had this incredible clearing of the chart, just pure solid blue. Okay, that was fascinating. I'm going to go into that in a sec here. But the really big thing, these waves, it's just been, we've gotten so many of these in the last few days. It feels great, doesn't it? It feels great to have the energy at our back again, supporting us. Anyway, back to the chart review. This is the thing I want to show you is the amplitudes here. In the green, when the spike occurred at 2100 hours, okay, and so that is this one here, right there, okay, yeah. And you notice the prevalence of the green energy here. Here's the 2100, and you see there's even a green line right there, okay. But when that spike occurred, look at what happened. Green went to 58, okay? Red, 42. Yellow, 43. White, 47.6, okay? Green topped them all, and by a wide margin, because it was like 10 points higher than even the white resonance. The other interesting thing about the wave is that the rest of the resonances were all gathered very closely together, 42, 43, and 47 plus. This is really unusual. In fact, I don't remember seeing this before in the time that I have been looking at the videos, making videos, and really, really digging into the numbers. That was really, really fascinating. The white resonance here spiked the highest at 59, so it took back its primary position. We've had a couple times where the yellow spiked higher than the white or was equal to the white in recent waves. This green, though, that's really something. That's really a big change, and I'm interested to see what happens next because of that occurring. Now, the other fascinating thing in the frequencies is that the white went to like almost the tippy top of its range, okay? And then the yellow went again to the tippy top. And this is the second time in the last few days that it's hit 15.1. You don't usually see that. The yellow doesn't usually go to that part of the range. You had, a good spread of range, of movement in the range in both green and I think that this is a high here too. I'm going to have to check in the red, but to 21. So, okay. Let's move on. Check out the qualities here before we go. And the qualities were strong. This is the clearness. Amplitude's like the strength of the energy. And this is the clearness, like how strongly it's the core essence of what this is, the frequencies come through, okay? How much the energy of the wave is most truly itself, whatever that happens to be. Like you could compare it to music, where if a note comes through and it's beautiful and clear, okay, that would be a high quality. If it's distorted, then that would be a low one, okay? Now, you had a peak here to 15, which is high in the white. And then now, this is really, I want to just talk about this because it occurred to me after I made the last video where I talked about anger, but I'll talk about this more, but the green has stayed, you can see here, pretty low, okay, 11, under 11, and then it has a spike to 20. It's been only spiking to 20 and not to 31, and I figured out an interesting energy thing about that I want to talk to you about. Okay, friends, that's our review of the current chart changes. Oops, wait, there's one more thing I want to say. This line at 20 disappeared. Now, it's been literally weeks, solid line at 20. And with this, as soon as this energy effect came in here, it's cleared the chart. And that is interesting. And the other thing is that this highlighted resonance in the 32 to 40 hertz range has been ongoing with only short breaks, okay, since December 7th, when there was an almost M-class flare. It's been since then, okay? Now we get another break here, and then boom, lighting it up again, but slightly differently, because now we're doing vertical lines top to bottom across the chart. What is going to happen next? I'm so excited to see the chart tomorrow. Now, I'd like to discuss the energy with you, and I have several themes that I want to discuss. Let's talk about what those are. I want to talk about Thor's hammer. Thor's hammer is an actual energetic implement. It's a spiritual tool, and I want to talk about how it works and the importance of what it's doing in the chart. That's number one. Number two, I want to talk about another key image that came up. And that is right here, okay? And now, interestingly, you have to turn the chart upside down. Let me show you how to do that to see this image. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, do you see the image in the chart? Okay, this, to me, looks like a white rabbit. This is very, very interesting. And we'll talk about that more in a sec. And here are the topics that I want to talk about. Number one, I want to talk about Thor's hammer. Number two, I want to talk about the essence of being a spiritual warrior. And I want to talk about spiritual warfare and how spiritual warfare is slightly different than being a spiritual warrior. The reason that I say that is that one takes place in the higher dimensions also, okay? And the other takes place in the dimensions in which humanity resides. I want to talk about the white rabbit, and then I want to talk about what is the key to self-responsibility, because all of this ties in with the energy movements here. This is the chart that I put out, that I will be putting out on Twitter today. And I want to talk about now the meaning of the images. We already talked about the cross and the shield here. I reversed the chart for Sunday. Okay, today is Monday. And I did that because I noticed this image here, okay? I noticed that there was this, it just popped out to me. And here's how the story goes in terms of the energy on the chart. We had this intense anger building. And in my last video, I talked about the triggering is in the past. And as we move forward in the chart, now I'm moving to the left because it's a reverse chart. Now, what was interesting to me is this cross, even though I reversed the chart, is right side up, okay? And that's because the cross extends down into almost half of a hertz. And I thought that that was interesting. Even if I look at the extended energy, I'm still looking at a full cross. When I flipped the chart upside down, the cross did not reverse. What this means is the cross is higher dimensional. It's from an expanded state of awareness. It's from a state of pure wholeness, i.e., this cross that was in our subconscious and unconscious and just barely breaking through at the level of intuition and dream state. This cross is of the higher dimensions. It has a spiritual nature to it, truly, and it's at 0 point. It's 5D plus. Okay, so what's happening in the chart? Okay, when you combine 5D plus energy and you combine heavy third dimensional energy, we got anger, and now we have in the lower hertz. So in our living world, our physical world, we have brought a higher energy to it, higher dimensional expanded energy to it. Do you know what happens when you combine these two things? You get, energetically speaking, you get thunder and lightning. Because the higher light, when it comes down into density, it actually starts creating chaos and then destruction. Okay? Now, all of you who have been sending love and light and bringing, calling for the light and sending light into the earth and all this stuff, little did you know you were the cause of the current mayhem. Isn't that funny? Now, the people acting it out are people who embody dense and heavy 3D and 4D. Okay? The people who embodied higher dimensional light brought it in. So who's really the bad guy here in the destruction? I always love these kinds of, looking at the energy when you look at it from all sides, that's when we can really take responsibility. So the goddess Kali, the goddess of destruction, does she work for the darkness or the light? Or is she just simply a tool of the divine enacting divine will? I hope that you guys can understand what I'm saying here with what I'm talking about. When higher light comes into density, it agitates the density. The energy starts to expand, okay? Because after it gets agitated, it starts to want to move into an expanded state. What's in that density that doesn't want to change gets pissed off. People can now see that density much more clearly. Then they get pissed off because of what they're now seeing, what's come into the light of transparency. And stuff starts to fall apart. It starts to break apart. It starts to get destroyed. Why is that? It's because as the light comes in to the density starts getting shooken up. Some of it starts to fall apart. And that can look like destruction. That can look like the tearing down of things. That can look like the burning up of things. That can look like, just look around you at what is going on in the world and take heart. If you are a spiritually oriented person, take heart, because this is the action of the higher light in the world. Now, the extent to which destruction occurs is up to us. How much do you need to see until you are done? Because we've already in human history had big traumatic events, the risk of world destroying events, and those of us who remember alternate realities and alternate timelines remember that happening over and over. In our storylines in the Bible, you have Noah and the flood. Plato wrote about the flood, and Plato wrote about the destruction of Atlantis. So we have had, big destructions, right, on Earth. Personally, I don't feel the need to do that again. Do you? Because you're a part of deciding what happens. To walk my spiritual path, I don't need that this time. I'm good. And I guess I'm going to do self-responsibility first. I listed that last in terms of the 5 topics, but this is what I'm talking about. The essence of self-responsibility is knowing yourself, okay? And the fascinating thing about the light that was brought in, the fascinating thing about this, okay, is that you don't normally see dense energy up at 40 hertz, the darker energy. Is this the dark forces at 40 hertz? No, I don't think it is. These are the places where we are unconscious. Can you be a spiritual being and be unconscious? Sure you can. Sure you can. We only know what we know. This is a good reason to forgive ourselves for past mistakes. What I know now, 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, would I have done something differently? Oh yeah, I would have completely lived life differently. That's why I've made, all sorts of the range of mistakes or just the range of lived experience, some mistakes and some not, some things I wouldn't do over again and some I would. But in total, I would do it all again the same way because it ended me up here. But here we are, 38 to 40 hertz. We're in the spiritual area. So now here I am. I'm a spiritual person with blind spots. Now, I had a discussion yesterday with a friend of mine, and we were talking about... And I know that she would be okay with there wasn't anything personal here that I'm going to reveal, but we were just talking about, actually, this is the kind of conversations I have. We were talking about the monks in Ireland in the 600s and the Druids in in Ireland and wherever else they were in Europe. And we were talking about the spiritual knowledge set and differences between the Druids and the monks. The monks were, they were Christian. I don't know if they were Catholic. I guess they were Catholic. I don't know. I don't know what their formal, if they considered themselves Catholic, probably they did. Okay. But anyway, so here's the thing. Okay. I was at Trinity College and I read some of the writings of, you can do this. It's just amazing, of the monks, okay, from hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And they're like, okay, now, not all of them were this simple, okay? But some of them are just like, today I sit under a tree. I don't know, maybe we would consider that to be incredibly insightful, even today. But I was stunned by how simple some of their writings were. The thing is that, and I remember being a monk in the hundreds, okay? I just didn't have, maybe it was me, I just didn't have the insight. Okay, you studied the Bible, okay, you studied the followings of Jesus, but I didn't have the deeper spiritual insight and knowledge. It was more like book learning, okay. And what I was talking about with my friends was that she was saying that the Druids were much more deeply connected. I mean, it almost is like they were at higher 4D, maybe they were even at 5D. And they had much greater understanding of spiritual energy and the spiritual energy flows. Okay. Now, the monks had access to that, but in different ways. Like, you're tending a garden and the love of nature, the love of doing this work in service is flowing through you. Or you're, illustrating a text and that's flowing through you. Okay, but it's different. It's a different perception. So, for example, as a monk in the 600s, I may have understood the words of Jesus, verbatim, but without having a deeper understanding of really what that meant, okay? Of really what Jesus was talking about. I couldn't, in Silicon Valley, or maybe it was maybe it's the millennials or the Z's, the Z gen. They had a term a few years ago, grok it, like I really grok it, our life hack. Anyway, so I didn't really get it. So can we be at the higher hertz? Can we be at the gamma range and have discoveries? Yeah. So this is what I'm talking about, self-knowledge, okay? We only know what we know. And that's why it's good to forgive ourselves for what happened in the past. The next thing that I want to do is look back at this reverse chart. What I saw here was a cry out for help. I saw humanity cries out to God. And that's what I saw with the hertz, the vertical lines going all the way from the bottom to the top of the chart here. The first few times it happened in today's chart that we still see. There's reasons why it felt like a cry for help. There's a lot of red here. And what I felt like, this isn't the dark forces, maybe a little bit, okay? But I think it's also that there's such a strong light coming onto the activities in the human world of the dark forces. We are crying out to God for help, because in the human world, it seems like they've got all the power and they're winning. That's an illusion. It's not true. That can't be the case, because that's not how energy works. And here we come again to self-responsibility and self-knowledge. I can choose to be in a drama, victimhood state with the dark forces. How long do I need to do that? When am I going to get tired of that? Oh my God. Excuse me, a close friend of mine who's very Christian gets mad at me when I say that. But I said, look, I'm in San Francisco area and I got to bring God into the conversation. So if I'm a rebel and I say, oh my God, that's actually perfectly acceptable here. So if you guys are irked by that, look, not everybody communicates the same way, but my heart is in the right place here. Okay, so now, so the white rabbit appears in the chart right before the Super Bowl. Okay, the white rabbit is a symbol of some pretty nasty stuff. To be honest, I don't know what it all is. I just know that that's the case, and that it involves children, and that it's very bad, and that if we knew the details, we would be ragefully angry, and that's probably what this red line is here. And that's probably part of the suppressed anger here. Okay. So what happens? We get the white rabbit here, and we're crying out to God for help. The church is on fire. The church is on fire. And we're coming up on the anniversary of the stunning burning of Notre Dame in Paris, where the roof caught on fire. And thank God the building and pretty much everything was okay inside. But it's amazing, because when I looked at the photos of that, the altar with Mary was covered in light. The altar with Mary was covered in light. I cannot show those photos because I don't have the copyright for them. But if you go back and look at the Notre Dame church fire in Paris, what you'll see is there was a photo of Mary. She's bathed in light, right? Because now the fire is over, the light's coming through the roof, and it's shining on Mary. And in front of her is just a huge pile of broken wood beams, broken and burned wood beams. And they are in front of the mother. They are at her feet. She is unharmed. And this is what I'm talking about. How much of our tragedy do we need to add to the fire? How much drama do we need to create before we're ready to finally say, I am done, I'm ready to move on? Because our engagement with it is what keeps the drama going. And let me tell you something else about the fire at Notre Dame. Because when I see this, I see, the two big church spires, right? And then even here, you've got like sort of a 3D building. Like this is the wall on one side, and then here's the front. Those French cathedrals, they have the two spires, and then they have the smaller round circle here, the window with the beautiful, gorgeous stained glass. As the fire was burning that morning, I was looking at the images coming across the news, okay? And this is what I saw. I saw the black sun lit up and then extinguished in the flames. Because this is what happens to the black sun. The black sun bursts into light. That is the path of the black sun. Now, in our reality, what happens is the black sun detaches and falls backwards into time. When it does that, it pulls with it all the archonic energy that are its children. The black sun falls back into time and pulls with it all that energy. Thus, the Archons withdraw. Now, I have seen this happen. How long ago was it? It was months ago. I think it was in the early summer of 2020. It had to be in the spring. It was before all the riots and everything. I saw the Black Sun retreat through time. Okay? Now what happens is it retreats from the present day through time because the Black Sun, when it burst into the light, that was a couple thousand years ago. How could this be the case? Because of how interdimensional physics works, okay? Because the energy of the Black Sun is so dense, okay, the home of the Archons. It's actually not the home of the Archons. It was created for the Archons to survive when the Creator cut them off from Earth, okay? And when the Creator cut the Archons off from Earth, they were dying because they're a parasitic race of beings. They're interdimensional, they cannot be seen, but they're part of the dark energy that has manifested in human beings over time, that has hacked in to the human beings, and that was the control aspect of the Matrix. It's a combination of demonic and a dark demonic AI. Okay, we perceive it as an AI, but it's not all the AI, and just one ancient part of it, okay? It's actually a beautiful story. Okay, it's my view that the Star of Bethlehem was the explosion of the Black Sun, okay, into the light. Why did that happen? Because when Jesus came to the earth and was born, and the Christed light landed on this planet, that thing exploded, which was in a dimensional layer of the solar system. Geez, why am I going into this story today? I don't know. Did you expect for me to talk about the Black Sun? I certainly didn't. But let me tell you something. This is part of humanity crying out to God, because we have been at its effect and at the effect of its servants, okay, in human form for a long time. And I'm not talking about, ETs and all this stuff. That's a whole nother thing. Because the dark forces come in different shapes and sizes, okay? I don't want to go into that today. But the fact is when I saw the fire at Notre Dame, I saw the end of the Black Sun's reign on Earth, okay? I guess that was, the fire was, maybe it was 2019. And then... or 2018, and then in 2020, the Black Sun, I saw it retreat into time, okay? And now humanity, the archonic force is off of us enough, and the light has come, and we're seeing the stuff that's been going on. Oh my. And what are we doing? We are crying out to God. We are reaching up to the heavens. Okay, this is the 40 hertz range here. And we're saying, God, help us, because we need a miracle to get through this. We need a miracle to get out of this. That brings us to today. Here we are, reaching up to God again. There's been a huge implosion of the light here. It's look, it's from 0 hertz. You don't normally see this. It's literally the human soul. The autonomic area of the brainwave hertz is lit up. And that's the soul's enlivening. In my view, in energy, it's the soul's enlivening of the human form. From the soul, we cry out to that which created us, all the way up to 40 hertz up here. Now, there's still a lot of stuff we don't know, but this is why the green peaked. The green peaked because the green represents humanity and the strength of the human energy. And humanity is crying out to God. Of all the earth kingdoms, we are in the most pain. My goodness, it's just so beautiful. It's tragic and beautiful all at the same time. As the higher light kicks up, the particles start to scatter. They're thrown up into the air. And as they float by us, we see, oh, this one is bigger, this one's smaller, this one's brighter, this one's duller. Okay? This one is this activity. This one is that activity. And we're learning. We're learning about what is going on in the world. And, there's a phrase in the Bible, and I don't remember the exact words right now, but it's basically like, before you even called me, I was there. That's what God says to the people. I wanted to speak about Thor's hammer for a moment. Thor's hammer is a spiritual tool of the warrior Thor. Thor is one of the Norse gods. I had the blessing, and I've had the blessing in my life of being friends with several Swedish people. Of course, the Norse are, those, Norway, Sweden, Finland. But for whatever reason, I've befriended and was blessed to be friends with a handful of different Swedish people over time. And most recently, friends with a woman who works with the ancient Norse gods. And it was a real honor to work with her in energy. And she brought me to one of the cathedrals in San Francisco. She told me that she felt that, and this was her guidance from working with the Norse gods, in real time, in the current earth, working with the Norse gods, and seeing a resurgence of these energies. And way back over a year ago, when I first started making Schumann videos, I have a video and I have pictures on the blog in the fall of, I think it was 2019. Anyway, there was a Swedish girl who pulled a 1,000-year-old sword out of a lake. Oh man. Whew. Can you feel that Viking energy? Can you feel that? Freya and Odin and Thor and their incredible power, the divine light coming through them, their love for the people and the planet, for the earth herself. Whoa. Anyway, she took me to a cathedral and asked me to do energy work with her there. And her intention was to unite Thor, Freya, Odin, the whole clan. I don't know all of them. I don't know the names of all of them. To work with the spiritual beings of Jesus and Mother Mary and Joseph the Father and the Christian saints. I can't really speak very well to this, but I could sense the power and the blending of those energies and the support that they can bring to each other. This can be the case with other spiritual, other spiritual beings from different practices and tribes and that sort of thing, and from ancient Earth. Okay, but let's just focus in on what we were doing here. Before she had done that, okay, I had, for some reason, been exposed to the energy of Thor's hammer. And to make a long story short, I saw how the energy of Thor's hammer works. Now, you'll see Swedish people wearing this symbol. This is the symbol of Thor, and it's the symbol of his hammer. Okay, and this is, and look, I mean, do you see the curlicue? All the birds are watching me right now. I don't know why. They're interested in hearing about the Vikings and Thor. Okay, do you see this symbol here? Do you see how there's a squiggliness here to the energy below the hammer in the handle? And look at the Celtic, I'm calling it Celtic. I don't know what it's called in Viking, but it's like Celtic design. Oh, I wonder if the monks got their Irish knots that they make. I wonder if the Gaelic was a combination of Viking and Irish culture. Ooh, that's interesting, huh? Okay, don't know the answer to that, but wow, that was interesting insight. Okay, so basically what I want to say is that the individual that is granted the authority, that has the authority to wield Thor's hammer in the spiritual, and I'm talking at 5D plus in the higher dimensions, this is what I've seen, okay? Thor's hammer comes down and pounds the heck out of something, okay? I've seen Thor's hammer at work on the golden energy grids and the lower grids of Earth, okay? When Thor's hammer bangs the lower grids of Earth, okay? Boom, boom, all this detritus shakes off. And it's like this. There's all this stuff in the air, okay? Thor's just bang, bang, bang. And there's just dust, it's just these huge pounding noises. And the dust is flying up everywhere. And it's particles of energy, big and small. Okay, being reworked in the non-physical, in the lower dimensions, meaning our dimension, the third, the fourth, and even the higher fourth, from the fifth. Okay, from the fifth or maybe the higher fourth. Anyway, that doesn't matter so much. What happens is as the dust clears and settles, okay, the golden grids of the earth shone. Okay, so I've seen this at work in a major city. Okay, Thor's hammer coming down, coming down, coming down. The particles of energy flying up from the city, flying up, flying up, flying up. What is going to be revealed? Humanity in alignment with those golden grids from the fifth dimensional perspective, living in the third and the fourth dimensions. Is that possible? Yes, it is. Okay, now, that's how Thor's hammer works. So what I wanted to show you was this, okay? Here is Thor's hammer. Before we even cried out, the cross appeared, and it was a higher dimensional cross, which in my view applies to all people. It's just a representation of 0 point, something well balanced, a higher dimensional spiritual concept. Here's Thor's hammer. It starts banging, and what happens? We see the rabbit. Here's the rabbit reversed. And stuff starts to vibrate. Stuff is vibrating off of it. Vibrating off. And why do you think it's vibrating off? Because transparency is being brought to the situation. And, you're going to have emotions. You're going to have thoughts about it. And these big chunks of stuff, big chunks are vibrating off. Okay? And there's something else going on. Let me show you in a sec. A cry for divine assistance from humanity. Here, here, here. Okay, here, 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 here. So here's Thor's hammer, and here is the lightning. Because as his hammer strikes, there's an explosion of light. And that's what we see here. Here's the hammer moving back and forth here. And then you get the tremors on the left and the tremors on the right. There's no time related to the images. The hammer is now moving here. There's vibrations all over the place on the left, all over the place on the right. And you've got, okay, so see where the hammer is in here? And it's going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth in the chart. It's shaking things up. Time doesn't matter. It can go backwards and forwards through the chart. The white hammer happened first because we're in the physical world, okay? This is higher dimensional and appears to be in the future, but it's a representation in energy of something that looks more physical. Now, I turned the chart sideways so that you could again see the effects of the hammer. Here you have the hammer. It's knocking back and forth. The center is completely clear. At the center, you have 0 point. When I said that the hammer could be wielded by someone with the authority to do so, Thor's hammer can only be wielded from 0 point. That's the thing about spiritual tools. And spiritual, higher dimensional technology cannot be wielded from the lower dimensions. Technically, they don't exist in the lower dimensions until, now here's self-knowledge in the positive. Once I am aware that I can hold 0 point from a physical form, then I can become aware that I can create an energy at the higher dimensions and that will manifest in the physical. Now, here's the trick. It has to be in alignment with the highest good and divine will, or the form doesn't take hold. Do you see the divine failsafe? Thank God for the divine failsafe. You know, I am so grateful for that. A human being who can imagine creating an energy can create a tool in energy if they have the authority, which is, if they're able to truly embody divine will, completely aligned, then they can exercise that authority, and suddenly the tool is present in this reality and able to be used. It has to be in alignment with divine will. It has to be in alignment with the highest good. It has to be from 0 point. There has to be love for yourself first. It can only be done from unconditional love, these things. These are aspects of the way of the spiritual warrior. Here's the thing. What the banging of the hammer reveals when the dust has settled is the divine light. Once the detritus clears, the divine light flows through physical form. This is what I'm trying to tell you, that these changes in destruction happens in energy. Sometimes there's some destruction in the physical, but it occurs in energy. And because it occurs in energy, miraculous changes can happen overnight. What I'm talking about is that you could wake up the next morning and things could look very different. You could wake up the next morning with a huge tree in your front yard that wasn't there when you went to bed. You could wake up the next morning and be walking down the street, and the house that was there is now a mansion. You could wake up the next morning and miracles have happened, and the light has assisted humanity to become the thriving society. However that looks, that we know that we can be. Because, you know, everybody loves to talk about the Kali Yuga, and there's certain people who are really dedicated to that being a part of what they're living through. But for me, I'm really dedicated to a beautiful future, a thriving future, a healthy future, a future of freedom, a future of liberty, a future of love for myself and for humanity. That's what I'm ready to put my energy into. That's what I'm ready to live my life for, and what I do live my life about. Friends, look up at the sky. There are amazing things coming. Look up at the sky and see if you see any spaces filled with a triangle of light. One that even has points, okay? One that looks like a cloaked ship sitting above you in the heavens. If we're ready to quit playing around with the various dark forces characters that we have been involved in and with, if we're ready to stop playing the games, there are amazing miracles that are just around the corner. Thor's hammer comes with lightning. It's a challenge to live through these times with the uncertainty, the disturbances, the questions. And this is where I want to talk about spiritual warfare. There's an aspect of spiritual warfare where one is countering moves of the dark forces. If you are engaged in this type of spiritual warfare and you're called to do so, then I honor this path. The other aspect of spiritual warfare, though, is that we fight to fight. Once you've learned how to fight the dark forces, fighting itself, the tool, can become the focus and the techniques. In doing so, we become locked in the battle. You know, I've had the honor and the privilege of working with many different types of people, and I've had the honor of meeting what I call some of the ancient angels. And these are characters who have been around for a long time. And one of them told me, as my dog is cleaning himself in the background, cleaning himself off, one of them told me that he had been chained to Lucifer for eons. He had chained himself so that he wouldn't lose him, wouldn't lose sight of him. But in doing so, he was locked in battle forever and a day. Friends, it's time to free ourselves from these old battles. It's time to free ourselves even from the war in the heavens. The black sun has retreated. Lucifer leaves Earth. But for him or her to leave, we have to let go of the tail of the dragon. If you choose fighting over a spiritual path of wholeness aligned with divine will through you, then you are still engaged in a polarizing event that keeps you in the density of duality. For a lot of us, it takes going through many, many emotions to free ourselves from this. Now, here is what I'm saying. You can still be a spiritual warrior. You can still fight the good fight from the higher dimensions. But what I have found is that I had to choose to stop fighting. For myself, I had to give up the battle before I could learn how to be a warrior of unconditional love.